Hello there, my little goobs, Absolute here. Today I have a top 5 list of things you need to be doing to challenge Baldur Gate's 3 newest and hardest challenge yet. It is significantly harder than anything we've seen so far, where you can never reload to a previous save file. If you get a game over, you fail and have to start over from the very beginning of the campaign, and every single boss now has legendary actions, giving it either powerful abilities or extra actions throughout a fight. Obviously, this is all on top of the already difficult features Tactician would normally provide, with the increased enemy health, greater enemy spell and weapon variety, more efficient AIs, the +2 bonus to all enemy rolls and difficulty classes, items being more expensive at vendors, and long resting requiring 80 supplies instead of 40. Even with all that stacked against you, I'm going to show you my tips and tricks that I used to never get a single game over. Foehammer is the new Steam achievement tied to this feat. Only 0.02% of players have this achievement, which is approximately 1 in 40,000 players. So if you want to join me in becoming one of the few players that have completed this challenge, or just want to take your Baldur's Gate 3 strategies to the next level, stick with me to the end, because the closer we get to the number 1 spot, the better the tips are going to get. For number 5, we have only heal as a last resort. Baldur's Gate 3 is built off the tabletop rule set of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and in D&D, healing never outpaces damage. If you could out-heal the damage being dealt at any point, there's no challenge to the game. And it is simply a fact that a first level spell spent on damage is going to deal more damage than a first level spell spent for healing. This means it's never worth keeping people topped up at full health, and it is always a better idea to use your actions to take out your opponents. Trust me on the math, but if you're using actions to take opponents out of the fight, that will always be more optimal than healing. The only time you should heal an ally in combat is if they go down. Now, there can be exceptions to this rule. Perhaps you have a life cleric that's amplifying healing and healing spells, making them much better than they normally would be, or perhaps you have Aura of Vitality cast on a character, letting them heal 2d6 as a bonus action every turn without their concentration on a character that doesn't use their bonus action for anything else. But always ask yourself if the healing provided would outpace the negated damage from taking out an enemy. For instance, a cleric could heal 1d8 plus 5 with a first level cure wounds cast in a combat. But had they used a guiding bolt instead and maybe taken out an adversary, there is now, say, 10 less damage not coming through every single turn. This usually means that dealing damage is the best way to keep allies safe, not healing them. For number 4, we have the things that happen before the combat decides the combat. Watching a cool YouTube video for the newest and coolest ninja stealth guy doing 30 damage per attack in Act 3, or any other powerful character in combat and making that character your TAV is a bad idea. First off, skill checks are usually more important than combats. Skill checks can instantly win combats themselves without any fighting, you can convince NPCs of what you want them to do or give you things, and it can get you access to items or quests you'd otherwise miss. Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't really allow your party members to chat on your behalf during most conversations. Skill checks are also permanent in honor mode, meaning you can't re-roll them or try again once an outcome is determined. Meaning, you should strongly consider spells and features which give you a boost to those rolls that you really don't want to fail. I myself played a powerful character in combat, a swords bard with sharpshooter making 1,000,000 ranged attacks with their slashing flourish ability. But I was also a bard with expertise in persuasion and deception, along with jack of all trades making me pretty good at everything. With all the advantages I gained, I highly recommend you do something similar. The second part of the things that happen before the combat decides the combat is what I call the buff phase. If you know a combat is coming and you have the chance to prepare for it, you should never lose that fight. Taking even a single round of preparation where your fighter coats their weapon in poison, your cleric casts bless on the entire party, your wizard or sorcerer casts haste on someone, and your paladin activates a channel divinity. All of these buffs a round ahead of combat should make it incredibly easy and turn most fights into an absolute stomp. For number 3, we have the tortoise beat the hare for a reason. The most important thing you need to do this challenge is patience. If you rush through sections, if you don't fully complete all the quests on your map before you move on, if you start taking risky gambles in general, you will eventually get punished for it. This is the hardest tip on the list, since everything else on this list are things that you can do in addition, but this is more of a theoretical thing. Some things you can do would be making sure you inspect enemies to make sure you know what they're good at or bad at before you experience it the hard way. I would not skip anything, as leveling up is generally going to be the best and safest way to continue growing your power throughout the game. I would make sure to continue to loot everything in the game that you can, even if it's a pain to manage, as magic items and shops are usually pretty pricey. You're also going to want to be buying as many healing potions, scrolls of resurrections, and other consumables that you can get your hands on in a shop. I'd actively make sure to check if you have any consumables in that pack of yours that would benefit you in a hard fight. Maybe your fighter is out of range and they can't do their normal melee attack. Instead of doing a measly 5 damage on a normal ranged attack, perhaps it would be smarter to dig through your pack and find that Scorching Ray scroll that's in there somewhere to do 21 average fire damage instead. If you're being smart and you're being careful, this challenge is going to get way easier. For number 2, we have always have a plan, even if it's a bad one. Before you begin your campaign, or maybe you already have, really think about a good party composition. Think about support abilities, damage, burst nova damage, spell casting, and all the features in general that you want access to while out on an adventure. I know that earlier I ripped on following a video guide that tells you what to play as a bad idea. However, that's only half true, as I actually recommend following a guide if you like the character and it seems fun to play. But the important part of taking your character from a guide is still making sure you have a well-balanced party after doing so. While I do believe having a Tav with good skill checks is more important, coming up with a broad plan and strategy that you're going to use to win your combats is the reason this spot gets number 2 on the list. Are you going to have a sorcerer twin cast haste on a fighter and paladin while a cleric uses bless on the both of them, while both of them rush in with a great weapon master and tear the enemies to shreds? What about an all stealth party that's prioritizing ambushing opponents and using surprise and gaining advantage early on in fights? What about playing a party as 4 moon druids, all constantly wild-shaped into owl bears, with full summons out all the time? Come up with a theme or plan for your group, and then find a guide out there for a powerful character build that follows that theme. The build will hopefully show you the optimal way to level that character, what they'll be able to do throughout the game, and the magic items that are good for that particular character and where to find them. For number 1, we have permanent resistance to all damage. Yes, please. This is an exploit many people already know about that has helped them complete the game on Tactician when Baldur's Gate 3 first came out, and it is still around. It is doable right from the very beginning of the game in Act 1, after completing the Withers quest and getting to level 3. That's all you have to do. Now, I've tested quite a lot of things personally, And one thing that I've found is that a character casting a concentration spell and then removing them from your party breaks the concentration and that spell evaporates. But that doesn't happen for spells that aren't concentration. Those spells do indeed last until a long rest as specified. So to do this, what we want to do is at level 3, head to camp and talk to Withers. You don't need anything else except for an incredibly small sum of 100 gold pieces. The first time you talk to him, he'll let you know he can revive companions, cool, whatever. Talk to him immediately again, and he'll offer follower companions to recruit to your cause. You can have a maximum of 3 followers at any time, and we are going to recruit all 3 that we are able to, and using Wither's other feature, change their classes to cleric. Each recruit is going to cost you 100 gold pieces, and then changing their classes will cost an additional 100 gold pieces. But we are going to abuse Wither's AI. He's never going to get mad at us for trying to pickpocket him, even if we fail. So just go behind him and take your money back whenever you run out of gold, or when you've paid for everything and just want your money back after it's all done. You should now have 3 characters capable of casting Aid and Warding Bond as a level 3 cleric. Also, all of us probably have that one character that sticks around in camp and we never take with us on the adventure. Whoever that character is for your particular run, swap their class to cleric so you can have a total of 4 buffers. Each character right now is going to cast Aid and Warding Bond on a party member with their 2 second level spell slots. This is going to give themselves and the party member 5 extra maximum hit points from Aid, and resistance to all damage and that +1 to armor class from Warding Bond. This makes your characters almost impossible to kill. Even if you don't pick up any defensive features, the resistance to all damage effectively doubles your character's hit points, meaning a character with 25 hit points with resistance to all damage basically has 50 hit points. Additionally, these buffs are just going to get better and better as time goes on. Later on, with higher spell slots, these camp clerics, as I call them, are going to be able to cast protection from poison, freedom from movement, death ward, hero's feast, and so many other powerful buffing abilities. Lastly, if you want even more buffs, I'd recommend looking into some of the powerful ones on the wizard spell list. Right at the beginning of the game, Longstrider stands out as a very, very powerful wizard spell, and later on, if you have a Gale at your camp, I'm sure there's going to be other great buff options to continue to add. Keep in mind, all of these buffs from your camp clerics or your wizards or from any one that you use need to be reapplied each day after you take a long rest, but they make such a huge impact, you do really need it. It's so powerful, do this. Hey there, my little goobs. Outro absolute here. If you want to directly support me and the channel, there's a link to a Patreon down below with some pretty cool viewer benefits, but just watching the video also helps immensely, so if you're still here, thank you for that. If this did happen to help you out, consider leaving a like or sharing this video with someone close to you. Not only does it help out my channel, but the more people that know these things, the better. And if you want to see more BG3 guides, check out the other videos here on the channel, or subscribe and join the cult of the absolute. I really hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you little goobs later.